Hey guys, Vanessa here, and today I am fortunate enough to be accompanied by an incredibly talented musician. This special guest has composed and arranged many jazz pieces, including my personal favorite, Watermelon Man. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Michael C. Kamuf.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on, Vanessa. I appreciate it. Hope you're doing well.
So today I will be interviewing Mr. Kamuf. Unfortunately, due to this whole coronavirus situation, this interview will be done by Skype. So please bear with me if any of us lag or slightly cut out. Let the interview begin. So, Mr. Kamuf, tell us about yourself. Who are you, and what do you do as a musician?
Well, I kind of have like a multifaceted career. I'm an educator. I'm in my 29th year of, actually 28th year of teaching in Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland. It's my 29th year teaching, my 28th year in this school district. And I also write music. I write music for Alfred Music Publishing, concert band, jazz band, orchestra. I write for some professional ensembles as well. And I also still play the trumpet, do that pretty regularly. So I kind of juggle many things all at the same time.
Interesting. Okay, so next question. Where do you get your ideas to make your tunes sound different from other composers?
Well, for my original pieces for band and strings, I try to have contrasting ideas and themes, and the trick is to make them work well together. That's always a goal of mine. The ideas kind of have to flow and make sense, and then if I don't like the way they're flowing or whatever, I keep working till I get it so that I like the flow of what's going on. Once I have things that work thematically, I begin to work on the overall structure and form of the piece, and how I'm going to orchestrate it, how I may change up the harmony. Once I get this process going, then the ideas seem to morph a bit, and things kind of take shape. With jazz band arrangements and anything I write for jazz band, it's similar but different. I tend to make a lead sheet of the tune actually, and I sketch my ideas out for all pieces. Whether it doesn't matter what group I'm writing for, and I'm a pencil and paper person. I do a lot with that, and then it goes into the computer after the fact. But I make it for jazz band, like for Watermelon Man, which is your favorite. I made a lead sheet of that, and I used the chord changes. I actually did a hybrid of the chord changes on that one. Herbie originally recorded that on an album called Taken Off, and for Blue Note in the early 60s. That was the first time it was recorded. And then he also did it at various other points in his career, especially with the Headhunters band in the 70s. So for the first 8 measures of the tune, I used chords that were basically from the original. And then for the next 8, well, not quite the next 8, but for the 9th through 14th bar of the form, I kind of used the chords he used for Headhunters. So I kind of did a little bit of a hybrid of the chords there. So when I write an arrangement, I come up with a lead sheet like that, like I did in that instance. And I make sure I have the chord changes I want to hear. The melody is always sacred to me, so I don't tend to mess with the melody of a tune. Maybe just a slight embellishment, but I try to not make the melody of the tune be unrecognizable. I think that's because that's the look of the tune. It's got that's the main component of the song. It has to be there, but everything else is pretty much fair game there. I try, when I'm getting ideas together, I try to listen to as many recordings of the tune as I can. But if I'm writing for a big band like what is published, I try to avoid listening to big band recordings because I don't want to get any. I really don't want to get any kind of, I don't want to be stealing somebody else's idea or something that's implanted in my head, this is cool, but then I got to go back and, oh no, this doesn't work. So I try to listen to a lot of different versions of the tune. And going back to the Herbie Hancock version of Watermelon Man, the beginning, I don't have a score in front of me, but the beginning of where the solo section starts, that's actually a Dexter Gordon quote from the original recording. Dexter was the tenor saxophonist on that. So I tend to, things that stick out to me from the quintessential recordings or the or the recordings that speak to me, at least of the piece, that tune, I try to incorporate some of the ideas, and I do that quite a bit with the jazz band. So, and like I said, I still write with pencil and paper, but then once I get into the piece and I do a little bit of listening, the form kind of takes shape. I'm going to structure the tune. I tend to work out the voicings and the different counter melodies at the piano, and then just start writing. See what it takes me, and I often delete what I have or do a save as once I'm working on the computer, and sometimes things morph a little bit, but from where I start, sometimes I have one idea and when I one plan, and then once I get rolling, the plan changes. So that happens a lot. Sometimes the form and the orchestration ideas that I set out to do just don't always work. So that's why a lot of times they do, a lot of times they don't. So then I just kind of morph things. I'm also very fortunate. I'm married to an outstanding educator and saxophonist, and she listens to a lot of my stuff. And my wife Debbie, and she gives me a lot of feedback. So I'm really fortunate there. And I listen to music all the time, so it's really it's really an ongoing process. For me, I'm always learning, I'm always listening, and just trying to take it all in, and hopefully I get creative sparks from listening to whatever, and whatever I'm listening to, and that kind of propels me through the project.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay.
Most of the time it is. Sometimes it's not. But sometimes most of the time it's a lot of fun.
Okay, so then, what difficulties or challenges do you usually encounter when composing a new piece?
Oh, I think it depends on what I'm writing for. If I'm writing for band or orchestra or jazz band, it doesn't. I guess it really doesn't matter. But what does matter is the grade level that I'm writing for. Like if I get an assignment from the publisher to write something at this grade level, that's a challenge because you have to if you're writing an arrangement, you have to figure out what key the song's going to work in to fit the series, and what technical considerations for each grade level of music. You have to keep that in mind as you're writing. So that's kind of a challenge. I would one of the most difficult things that I've ever had to write was this thing that came out a couple years ago through Bell and Band. It's called Nicholas Variations, and it's an arrangement of Jolly Old St. Nicholas. And I could only use 6 notes, keys, B flat through G concert. It's the first 6 notes that are introduced in band method books. So that was really hard to do because I could really only use quarter notes, half notes, and whole notes. I couldn't really do with the winds. I couldn't really use eighth notes, and then I had to. I only had 6 notes that I could work from. And I include in the chords. So it was really tricky to make that work. That was trying to be creative in a straitjacket. But so those kinds of things, the technical considerations of the ensemble are usually the challenges, because you have to think, is this going to work with this age level of the target audience of the series and the piece. So that's a big factor for me. For the jazz stuff too, sometimes the tunes can be kind of difficult. They can be, the harmony can be a little bit, difficult. And the melodies might not be that difficult. The harmonies can be difficult. Like there's a great tune by Quincy Jones called Stockholm Suite, and no matter what key you do the song in, the bridge is going to be a challenge to play, and so that's hard to do with to write things like that for young musicians. You want to make sure that that they're going to be successful, and I think I've hit a mark because of all my years of middle school teaching. I think that's helped me grasp that as a writer for young musicians, and what is playable and what might not be playable.
Okay.
Okay.
So then, what inspires you to keep composing?
Money. No. Really just working with students and hearing all like yourself that you love my arrangement of Watermelon Man. Just to hear students say that, students that I don't even know say that's really inspiring. And then hearing when I hear ideas and I get them down on paper and then eventually into a piece. Just hearing that music come alive in front of a group. I was commissioned last year to write a song about the Mahoning Valley in Ohio, which is the Youngstown area, which is the Ohio area, which is kind of between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. They had me write a piece for this honors band, and then we premiered it. It's actually coming out through Alpha this year, called Steel Valley Transformation. And this is a concert band piece, and it was really inspiring to write the piece of music, because I lived in that area for quite a while, and so I kind of drew on my experiences living there for 7 years to write the piece and to come up with the idea. And then it was really rewarding for me to watch the whole thing come to fruition with a performance and getting to work with the band and many colleagues of mine in that area. So that was very inspirational too. So commissions are inspirational. Just hearing groups perform my music, it's a very big inspiration.
So then, talking about music, what was your first instrument?
Trumpet. Well, my first instrument was guitar, and that lasted about 2 weeks. And then it was trumpet, and it's been trumpet ever since. You really don't want to hear me play anything else.
So, were there any difficulty in your new instrument in your early stages?
I was really fortunate. I started in 7th grade. I started kind of late, and for whatever reason, I had a pretty decent range on the trumpet. When I'm feeling good, I still kind of do. But I don't feel like I ever really played with a lot of finesse until I got to college. I just was kind of a old china shop for the trumpet player. But I've always really enjoyed playing the trumpet and making music. I do not spend enough time on it, teaching and doing everything that I'm doing, but I still enjoy it, and I hope that I'm gonna get more of an opportunity as I maybe retire or whatever as the years go by, that I get a little bit more of a chance to get back into playing the horn more than I am right now.
Oh, okay. So, what is your point of view on music then?
Well, for me, music is it's really a life force. It's been a part of my life since I can remember. My father was a musician. My parents always had music playing in our house. Always great music. My mother and father had a great record collection, and that kind of instilled a love of music in me at a young age. And then I started playing in 7th grade, and then by 8th grade, I really knew that I wanted to do this as a career path. And then I started writing music. I had my first arrangement played when I was in 8th grade, and I just kept writing. And I really didn't have any formal training until I was in college. So I just studied scores and did it that way. But from that young age, music became just a powerful force for me, and I've just been very fortunate to make a career out of teaching and composing, playing. I just try to instill the love that I have for music in my students and students that I'm able to work with. Not just my students, but when I get a chance to guest conduct and things like that, I just try to instill that love, passion for music in others.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kamuf, for your time. And ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here. The one and only Mr. Kamuf. Again, Thank you so much for taking the time to do this live interview.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys for listening. See you next time.